Speaking of quarterbacks, after getting off to a 5-0 start, the Vikings finished with an 8-8 record and failed to make the playoffs. Sam Bradford, who was acquired before the start of the season for a first and fourth round pick, finished the season with the highest completion percentage in a single season in NFL history, something that didn't go unnoticed by his coach.
I think Sam has played great this year, number one. I think he's earned the right to be the starting quarterback. And right now, all I'm worried about is Teddy getting better. He comes in here every single day, busts his rear end, and I just want him to get better right now. And so we're worried about all those things there. But Sam has done, Sam has done remarkable things he's done this year with all the things that he's had to do.
Just to be clear, it's unknown whether their former quarterback, of course, Teddy Bridgewater, who suffered that horrific injury prior to the season, will be ready to play next season. It was that bad. But, Max, was this trade a mistake?
Yes. And first, let me say that when I hear something like that, that tells me Bridgewater's not going to be ready. Because Sam Bradford didn't play that well. I know he had the highest completion percentage and everything, but come on. We all saw what it was. He was okay. Yes, it was a mistake. Because what you're asking when you ask it's a mistake is, let's look at the results. What happened? They traded a first and a fourth because they were up against it when Bridgewater got hurt, and they thought they had a chance to make a Super Bowl run. That's why you do that. Bradford, a former #1 overall pick, and maybe he could fit in the offense and all that. But the results are they're not going to the playoffs. So when it comes time to evaluate, would you do it again, knowing what you know now? The answer is no.
But keep in mind, AP got hurt too.
If you could do it again, here's all the information now. You had imperfect information then. You have perfect information now. Would you make the trade, yes or no? No. Mistake.
I wouldn't say that. And here's the reason why I wouldn't say that. You have to consider the timing that everything took place. If you acquire Sam Bradford before or rather after Adrian Peterson gets hurt and he goes down, then that would be different. As I recall, Adrian Peterson was in that lineup when Sam Bradford got traded for. So as a result of that, you're thinking you've got arguably the best running back in football, even though we now know it's Le'Veon Bell and others. But the bottom line is Adrian Peterson is a stud. So you're thinking about Adrian Peterson. You're thinking about Stephon Diggs. And more importantly, you're thinking about a defense that at one time early this season was considered elite, coming off a postseason. Then you look at other competition within the NFC North. You're not thinking much about Detroit. Chicago is non-existent because Jay Cutler is their quarterback. And then you got Green Bay, who had some issues with on the defensive side of the ball, not to mention that Jordy Nelson wasn't 100%. So if you had all of these question marks, then at the time that you make that move, you're legitimately looking at yourself as a bona fide Super Bowl contender who simply needs an experienced enough quarterback to hold down the fort. That's why you grab Sam Bradford. Again, if Adrian Peterson goes down already, if Stephon Diggs is down, if the defense is suspect, okay, and then you make this trade, that's different. But at the time they made this deal, they had all their pieces in place, and they believed all they needed was a relative game manager who could throw a few passes from the pocket.
Yeah.
That's it. And
everything was lining up for that team.
And their defense first 4, 5, 6 games was special. That Vikings defense, you could see early in the season why they pulled the trigger. I might have done the same thing if I was a GM of that team. Who's the best available quarterback who I think can dink and dunk? Let me go get or take shots down the field even in Sam Bradford's case. But it didn't work.
Well, wait a minute. But what I'm saying to you is you're looking at the aftermath of hindsight. What I'm saying to you is that the reason why we got to shove aside hindsight is due to the injuries, not the play. Because it is their obligation to see the potential in a player. But what you can't predict are injuries.
Yes, that's why at the time I thought it was a good idea. And now with the information, I think it was a bad idea.
But what I'm saying,
not a bad idea, it was a mistake.
But you also got to.
You can have a good idea and it could be a mistake.
It's still not a mistake. And here's why. The other thing, we're looking at Teddy Bridgewater. What would we saying about Teddy Bridgewater? We like him, good young quarterback, but at the same time couldn't throw the ball downfield, hadn't established himself as a pocket passer. There were some huge questions about their passing game, but their running game was elite. And you talking about a Sam Bradford here. 71.6% of his passes threw for nearly 4,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Teddy Bridgewater, what did he throw last year? I think it was like 13 or 14 touchdowns all year long in all 16 games.
Adrian Peterson was averaging like 2 yards a carry when he went down. That offensive line was terrible, and they couldn't get it done. So can a good idea be a mistake? Yes, lots of good ideas throughout history have been mistakes or apparently good ideas. When the information comes in, you evaluate, you go, wouldn't do that again.
But there's nothing else they could do in that moment, in that time. Fair?
No, you could have traded for someone else or maybe not given up as much.
In 2 years.
Done better in the draft.
In 2 years, Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. All 16 games he played last year, he threw 14 touchdowns. He threw 14 touchdowns and a grand total of 3,200 yards. In 14 games, Sam Bradford threw for nearly 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's just a better passer.
All right, but they gave up a lot for him.
But regardless, that everything was lined up for this team to potentially make a run this season.
Yes, it was.
I cannot blame them. And unfortunately, injury gods.
I'm not blaming them. I'm saying it was a mistake.
Right, I'm done. We're done with this. We're keeping up with the Joneses. It's that time of the show when we talk about Jerry, the president, owner, general manager. He's the gift that keeps on giving. Jerry, how about your boy Tony Romo throwing that sweet touchdown pass?
He didn't surprise, I don't think, anybody on our team as to how well he played because that's how he's been playing in practice. He showed that his unique combination of not only the ability to see the whole thing, but, of course, he stepped up there and he made changes there at the line of scrimmage with his calls and then made the plays. And so that's what you get with Tony. While it felt good to see him go down the field, I just felt like he could step out there and do that series in, series out.
In all seriousness, Stephen A., will Jerry Jones be happy winning the Super Bowl with Dak Prescott?
I don't think that's exactly the right question. Let me be a bit more specific. He's going to be happy with a Super Bowl regardless. He will not be as happy as he would be if it were Tony Romo as his quarterback. Let me be very, very clear as to what I'm trying to say. Jerry Jones, even if he were to win a Super Bowl, which will not happen this year, by the way, because Dallas ain't winning a damn thing. But if a miracle happened and the Dallas Cowboys ended up winning the Super Bowl, but Dak Prescott was the star from start to finish, Jerry Jones would have bittersweet feelings. He would not enjoy it as much as he normally would. His emotions and feelings would not be as authentic, even when he goes up and hugs this young kid, Dak Prescott, because if the Dallas Cowboys do pull off this miracle and find a way to steal a Super Bowl championship while Jerry Jones is in his 70s, okay? Let me tell you something right now. Jerry Jones is going to go up there and he's going to give him a hug and the cameras are going to be there and he's going to appear so genuine because we all know that anybody's that is a hype machine personified, that is the ultimate salesman, knows how to sell and knows how to put a good face on things. So he's going to look sincere, but don't you be fooled. He will not enjoy it nearly as much. He will not feel just as good about it because he will be wishing the whole time that Tony Romo finds a way to get up in there and be his quarterback at some pivotal moment so he could sit up there and say Tony Romo was a huge, huge part of why we are here today, despite having only 2 playoff victories in his 10 seasons as a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. That is how Jerry Jones will feel. He will not admit it, but I know these things. Trust me, he feels this way.
Talking to people?
Yeah.
You hearing things? Little Birdie told you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to read between the lines.
I have to admit that.
Privy to some information.
I have been told that in the past.
I'm willing to accept the idea that Jerry Jones likes Tony Romo better than Dak Prescott because he's known him longer, because he's the guy who made the team and made good and revived the Cowboys to an extent, at least during the regular season.
Yep.
But you know who Jerry Jones likes more than Tony Romo?
Who?
Jerry Jones. And if they win the Super Bowl, does he have a big ego? We all agree Jerry Jones has a big ego. He likes being called coach, right? He likes being thought of as a football mind. You think if they win the Super Bowl and all the stories are of how smart Jerry Jones is, how he learned to draft offensive linemen instead of Johnny Manziel and all this, and look at those Dallas Cowboys, that he is actually going to let the fact that his preferred way of doing it will actually somehow dampen his happiness about having accomplished it, about the entire sports world celebrating him? I know Jerry Jones like Tony Romo. He don't like him that much. He'd rather win the Super Bowl and be hailed as a genius.
He loves himself a little more.
Yeah, he likes Jerry Jones better than he likes Tony Romo.
That's why I would never say that he wouldn't be happy. What I'm talking about is that you got to remember something. I mean, champions tell us that when you win a championship, there is no greater feeling in the world. There is nothing that eclipses that. I'm saying to you, when Jerry Jones won that first Super Bowl title with Jimmy Johnson, nothing eclipsed that. When he won title number 2 with Jimmy Johnson, nothing really eclipsed that, because you know what? You remember the holdout of Emmitt Smith, and then you brought him back, and then you repeated as champions. Now, you might sit up there and say that the feeling that eclipsed both was when Barry Switzer came in and won it, not the third year, because San Francisco with primetime beat him before primetime went to Dallas after that and joined Switzer and the crew and Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and those boys, and they ended up winning their third title in 4 years. Some would say that title was, but at the same time, it was somewhat bittersweet, because they were like, it's with the players that Jerry Jones picked, and it wasn't all you and all of that stuff.
I have a question for you, Craig. I have a question for you about this.
But this one right here, that would be Jerry Jones true. But Jerry Jones loves his adopted son, Tony Romo.
I have a question for you about this, because it seems to me, if I'm Dak Prescott, I like what I'm seeing from Jerry Jones, because if he feels this much loyalty to a guy like Tony Romo, what if I win him a couple Super Bowls? How's he going to treat me as I get older and there's a young kid who's coming to take my job? Do you think, because you never shy away from this issue and in fact bring it up where you think relevant, that this is it all, without saying Jerry Jones has any kind of racial motivation, do you think there's a racial component to it, in the sense that he chooses Tony Romo as his adopted son?
Not at all. I don't think there's any racial component to it whatsoever. I just think that he has a level of love and devotion to Tony Romo. I think that Tony Romo is like a son to him, like one of his children.
Could Dak Prescott one day be a son to him?
I don't think to the degree that Tony Romo is.
What is it about Romo?
Listen, can I tell you why I feel this way? I feel this way real quick, y'all, because of this. I truly don't believe Tony Romo in terms of production on the football field, because that's why you would have this love for Dak Prescott, right? Because Dak Prescott would come in there and deliver you a title. Okay, so you'd love Dak Prescott. Well, Tony Romo had 10 years and couldn't deliver you more than 2 playoff victories. But somehow, some way, you have this love and devotion and affection for him. So I'm basing it on that. And I'm saying to you, it's not just about winning. It's about something else. Because if it was about winning, he should dislike Tony Romo. Because the Tony Romo that is 78 and 49 during the regular season is a Tony Romo, albeit not his fault entirely, because there were other components that attributed to it. Tony Romo, as the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, failed to get it done year after year after year after year.
He was a really good quarterback. Won a lot of games. Fun to watch.
So I'm saying to you, and that's why I said to you, I'm not saying anything this racial, anything at all. I'm simply saying to you that I think the love and affection that he has for Tony Romo is an aberration. It is uncommon, and it is not something that anybody could just get just because they win. Because if you should love anybody, shouldn't it be the all-time leading rusher that is Emmitt Smith? Yeah, he might be up in the suites and stuff like that. But I understand that. What about Troy Aikman? What about Troy Aikman?
Taking too many shots at the Cowboys.
Just to be fair,
but what about before?
Just to be fair, he did put years of work into the organization, Tony Romo.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, so in terms of effort and him seeing...
Molly Wood.
Molly Wood. You got to give some respect for that.
Molly Wood. I specifically said production on the field. It's not there. It does not justify this.
Romo never got his job back either. Never got his job back.
How about that?
All right.